Hello and welcome to another episode. So today we're doing lesson 16. I have no neutral thoughts. So I think this is a really good lesson. If you believe that your thoughts can lead out of a bad situation, chances are that typically they're going to be the thoughts that are doing the opposite of what you're intending. So your thoughts that identify you as a person, as a body, are going to be naturally sort of stuck in the world that we know, in the world of perception. So whatever we believe is true, it'll just reinforce it. But if you have no thoughts of the body, then your thoughts will naturally be your real thoughts. So the ones that the body doesn't account in. There's no representation of the body in those thoughts. It's a divergent idea in a mind that's split. So this is a really important one, I think. So I kind of changing it this week. I want to kind of split this up a little bit more. Maybe we can talk about more things as we go. Uh, we'll see how this goes. So if we're going to go through the whole thing, we'll just go kind of one uh, paragraph at a time here. So the idea for today is the beginning step of dispelling the belief that your thoughts have no effect. Everything you see is a result of your thoughts. There is no exception to this fact. Thoughts are not big or little, powerful or weak. They are merely true or false. Those that are true create their own likeness. Those that are false make theirs. So let's talk about this distinction. So those that are false make theirs. So anything that you're really working to add to yourself, add to your life, and this is one of the other ones that we're going to talk about here soon, is I have no real goals. And this will make sense if we explain this right now. So you have to make what you think is what you're missing, right? So you don't make anything unless you believe that you're missing something. So that's only true in this world where we feel like we've separated ourselves and it's possible that we would need anything. That isn't the truth. So we can have thoughts here that aren't going to be lost in this process because we don't think that and this is in the course a few times, that all your loving thoughts will be preserved and cleaned of all of the sort of impurities that were around them at the time. So those that are true create. So if they are what you truly love, they will create their own likeness so that it'll spread. I think this is what comes into the situation when you talk about people that do something sort of genuinely kind, and then they, especially say they give away a bunch of their money, they'll often tell you that it came back to them 10 times over. And I think that's why, right? Is you put that thought out there and then it creates its own likeness and comes back to you. If you physically make something, if you feel that you don't have all that you do have in reality, I mean, we're just observing the dream as a truth if we believe it's not true that we have everything at all times. If you make it, it's reinforcing that situation where you feel like you have nothing, or you feel like you're missing something, I should say, sorry. There is no more contradictory concept than idle thoughts. So what gives rise to the perception of a whole world can hardly be called idle. Every thought that you have contributes to truth or illusion. Either it extends the truth or multiplies illusions. You can indeed multiply nothing, but you will not extend it by doing so. So think of this like, if something is material, you have five of them, you give two away, you only have three, right? Uh, Contrarily, if you teach somebody something important, during that process, you're going to both be strengthened by that process. And I've kind of become aware of this as a teacher, that the best way for me to learn is to do my best in teaching somebody and knowing the value of what I'm teaching. That's why it's important that I have something that I'm teaching that I feel is worthwhile teaching. So materially, you can be lacking something. In reality, you can't be. But to get an idea of this premise, you just have to think about adding to something like that. So let's not forget either that there are no idle thoughts. So anything that comes up and shot through the film that we were talking about inside the cave, anything that is put onto the screen, those are things that you are thinking. So the reason that you think of them as images is because you can't directly interact with them with the combined consciousness, so the holistic conscious, but you have these little bodies inside of time that do interact with them. So it seems real. And it seems like that thing that you're having is real. And really, this is just like a dream, right? So, besides you recognizing that thoughts are never idle, salvation requires that you also recognize that every thought you have brings either peace or war, either love or fear. The natural result is possible because the neutral thought is possible. Sorry, the neutral result. I should just do this. I don't know why I'm not writing it here along. A neutral result is impossible because a neutral thought is impossible. So either if you're thinking, you're doing something, right? So your natural thoughts are the ones that require no corollary in the world, but they're just going to be consistent. I mean, there still is the principle of something teaching you in the world. So I guess that is a way of communication. But your thoughts either coming from your situation you see as a person or the situation you see as God's son. There is such a temptation to dismiss fear thoughts as unimportant, trivial, and not worth bothering you about. Is essential to recognizing that they're both equally destructive, but equally unreal. We will practice the idea in many forms before we really understand it. So we talked about this before. Everything that is kind of aimed towards the body. So if we think of this position as the body, so this representing towards the heavens if we look on the top here. But if we think of this as representing the bottom, everything that's put together is really nothing. It's lysis. So it's these two thesis, antithesis, and then this one is synthesis, but this one is lysis. So it just becomes nothing. And think of it like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen that experiment where you take a long sheet of paper and then you twist it once and then you tape it to itself. And in that process, you have sort of this naturally round but twisted. So let's try to give it a perception of twisting here, where you go around in it and you can be looking, you can arrive in the same place. So you go around like this, then you go back around this way and you arrive in the same place and you really have gone nowhere. You just went in a big circle. But if this is spread out over a long distance, it seems like you're perceptually going forward. You're doing something. It doesn't mean that anything's really happening. It's just all contributing to nothing. Whereas if you're doing things with your real thoughts, so your true thoughts and the ones that realize that you're not missing anything, that you have abundance in all regards, you're doing synthesis. So you're reaffirming this truth. You're not going around in a circle towards nothing. And keep in mind the Philosopher's Stone here. The lower triangle isn't even shown in this. It's just going towards the sort of all-seeing eye towards the infinite. It doesn't even recognize this. So this is not something that is really going to factor into this world too much. This is just, there's one, but it seems like there's two. And then the two opposing wills create motion. So in general, when you have two opposing forces working, like we said before, I was talking about this before. Well, actually, I might have meant this in my other channel. But there's two opposing forces, that creates motion. When there's no opposing force, i.e. this, then you just have non-motion. You have basically like two cells working together in a collective good, which is these two antitheses will be this one. This whole image is useful in some ways, but useful and not useful in other ways. The triangle is not indicative of where we really want to be, but as the world as it is now, the triangle is sort of necessary. Oh, when you try to shine, you dim your own light. So I remember hearing that before, and this is kind of the same idea. If you're really trying to make something happen in the world, if you're making your situation, as they were saying, if you make it, you're taking away your own light. Whereas if you're allowing yourself to be bright knowing you are this divine light, then it's going to be a different situation, obviously. So for applying the idea today, search your mind for about a minute or so with your eyes closed, and seek not only to overlook the little thought that may tend to elude your search. This is quite difficult until you get used to it. You will find that it's hard for you not to make artificial distinctions. Every thought that occurs, regardless of the qualities that you assign it, is suitable subject for applying today's idea. It is the practice periods. In the practice period, first repeat the idea to yourself, and then as each one crosses your mind, hold it in awareness while you tell yourself, this thought is not a neutral thought. That thought is not a neutral thought. And keep in mind, all these thoughts are an act of creation too. As usual, today's idea, whenever you are aware of the particular thought that arouses uneasiness, the following form should be suggested for this purpose. This thought about blank is not a neutral thought because I have no neutral thoughts. Either you are creating or you're making, like it says. 5 or 6 practice periods are recommended if you find them relatively effortless. If strain is experienced, 3 will be enough. The length of this exercise should be reduced if there is discomfort. Okay, so I think I went probably a little bit long there, but I like the way we did this. I'm going to probably do this from now on, where we just kind of do one paragraph at a time. Breaks it down a bit, makes it a little bit easier, and makes it so we can pull out more nuggets of information as we go. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.